What up, people? My name is Naaackers, and today I'm going to be teaching you guys about nested scenes. Now, while this isn't going to be a comprehensive guide or kind of a full walkthrough of, regarding nested scenes, I'm going to show you how I apply them to my stream, and then hopefully you guys can take advantage of it and use these features within your show. So, first and foremost, what is a nested scene? It's exactly as it sounds. It's a scene nested in another scene. So the best way that I can describe it, those dolls that split in half and you open the first one and then there's another little one inside and you take that one out. Just a little like container inside of a container. That's kind of how you can imagine nested scenes. Now, I don't expect you to fully understand this concept by me talking about it. I'm going to have to show you, but for the sake of trying, why don't we just do it anyways? So if you think about containers, you think as OBS as the main container, scenes as the container after that, and sources. So you create sources, and those sources go within scenes. Now, what you're basically doing is adding an additional container. So it's OBS, scenes, sources. So let's take, maybe your starting screen for when you're streaming. You have a camera, you have an overlay, you have maybe an event list, a follower goal, whatever. And you have all of those sources that are attached to one scene. Basically, what you can do is if you want to control a bunch of different sources at one time or individually, you can take 10 sources and have those be attached to a single scene, your starting screen scene. And then you can take that scene and insert that into another scene. And then so you can basically just have like this never ending loop of scenes if you wanted. Now this comes in handy in two main ways for me, and I'm going to show you kind of how I use those right now. So the first way that I use nested scenes in my stream is I want the ability to be able to add filters to video sources, whether it's my main camera or my secondary cameras. So right now, if you were to take a regular source, like a video source, like a camera, for example, and you were to add a filter to it, whether you want, a chroma key, or maybe you want to desaturate it, whatever the case may be. If you add that filter to that source, wherever you have that source in OBS, it's going to automatically add that filter to. So let's say you want to create a secondary full camera scene where your camera is black and white. You want to play some sad piano music, maybe put some black cinematic bars for an emotional scene. Maybe you want to have a speech or something like that. But you don't want to have a black and white camera all the time. So what you would do is create a nested scene, basically a secondary scene where you would have that camera, and then you can add a filter to the scene instead of adding a filter to the source. And that allows you to have multiple camera sources with different color schemes and not kind of infiltrate your main source, what you want your audience to see all the time. So that's one main reason that I use it. Another main reason why I use nested scenes is I like to have the ability to turn off a bunch of sources with one keyboard click or one macro. And as you guys know, oh Jesus, that was an accident. As you guys know, I love my macro boards that I just basically program keys or key strings into to allow me to change scenes fluently. Yes, I have a Stream Deck. I'll go into why I like having dedicated macro boards over Stream Decks. I like using them both, really. What I can do is, and I'll show you this in a few minutes. I like to be able to have one main scene, right? And then I will have, let's say 5 sources tied to a single hotkey. I want to be able to turn off my camera, my webcam border, the event list, the Twitch alerts, and everything else with just a single key press. And that allows me to do that without having to create a massive amount of other scenes. The third way that I'm going to show you that I like to use nested is, oh my God. The third way that I like to use nested scenes is with cameras. So as you guys may know, you probably have, let's say 10 different scenes where your camera is in every single one of those scenes. Now, this is kind of like proactive thinking, but I've ran into this issue so many times before that it's important to me. Let's say you get a new camera, you remove your Logitech C920 and you buy a sub 2R camera, for example, well, you're going to have to go in and remove that source from every single one of those scenes and import the new camera, add that as a new video source, do all of the resizing, and it's a pain in the butt. What you can do is, instead of putting the camera source in those 10 scenes, you put an empty scene called camera, and then you can decide. You guys can't see me, can you? You can decide what camera is showing up. So if you have 10 scenes with your camera, instead of removing the source, you just remove the camera from the scene. And I'm just going to show you. All right, so because I just got so hot and bothered and frustrated on that last point, I'm just going to take the opportunity to explain that one, since that's the last thing that I was talking about. So right now, this is the scene that I usually start my streams with, okay? I have 4 main scenes that I use throughout the show. I have my pre-show, my gaming, my be right back, and my goodbye. Those are the 4 main scenes that I'm pretty much on the entire show. And then I just kind of work within those scenes when I need to turn things on and off. So, for example, right now, I have my sub 2R camera on this scene full screen. I also have my gaming scene where you can see my camera. And then I also have my be right back. Okay, so normally, if I were to replace this sub 2R camera, which I wouldn't, I would delete this source, and then I would re-add the new video source. However, instead of doing that, you can do this. So I have, as you can see right here, main camera nested scene. So I have a scene that only has my sub 2R camera in it. So let's say I was over here pre-show. Okay, pretend this is, let's just turn me off. How about this? Now all you see is black. Just like my heart. Okay, so you have a blank scene and you would want to add a camera. So normally you would right click, you would go to add, you would go to video capture device. All right. And because I already have my sub 2R camera, I would go to sub 2R cam and boom. And it's here. But that's not what I do. Okay, so we're going to get rid of that. Oh, come here. Whoop. Remove, delete, remove, delete. Okay, so instead of having the source be my camera feed, I have a scene, which is called main camera scene here. And I have that in all 3 of these scenes. 1, 2, and 3. Because I have this scene that has a source inside of it, power my camera for these 3 scenes, what I can do is go into this main camera scene. Let's say I get rid of my sub 2R and I want to replace it with, Rich is going to kill me for saying this. Let's say I wanted to replace it with a C9 22. All right, the good old bozo cam. Yoink. There it is. So what happens is when I go back to my pre-show, my camera has been replaced. And when I go to my gaming, my camera has been replaced. When I go to my be right back, my camera has been replaced. So, oh no, GoPro, it just died. Can you believe that? Okay, it's good to know that my that my technical difficulties do not only happen on stream, they also happen when I am recording videos as well. So I hope that kind of makes sense. Basically what you have is you have a scene that has a source inside it. And when you use that scene as the main source, you have the ability to do some hot swapping. So I understand that's probably a little bit confusing. So if you were to try and do this, this is what you would be doing, okay? So instead of having this scene where we would want to add the camera as a source, we're going to add a scene that has a camera source inside of it. So I'm going to turn off my camera. Boom. This is you with a blank canvas ready to add a camera. What I would do and what you should do, go to here and we're going to add a scene. Okay, so let's call this your main camera. And I always like to do this so that I know that it's a nested scene. Okay, we have a blank. Oh, no. This is a great tutorial. Okay, nested scene. Well, we want this to be main camera, nested scene for YouTube. Yoink. You have a blank scene. Go over to the sources, add video capture device, and choose the camera that you want. Boom, sub to our camera. And we're here. So as you can see down here, we have main camera, nested scene, YouTube. Cool. Come back to your other blank canvas. You have your pre-show with nothing on it. Instead of right-clicking and adding a video capture device source, you want to add a scene. What scene is that, Naaackers? Oh my God, I'm so glad you asked. What did I call it? Main camera, YouTube? Don't get scared by all my sources, okay? Main camera, nested scene, YouTube. Boom. So now, over here in your sources list, even though it shows it as a source, this is actually a scene inside of a scene. So I hope that makes sense. You're going to hear me say source and scene so many times over. It's going to be really confusing. You're going to have to watch this video a couple times over to get it. The core structure of the idea is instead of inputting sources into scenes, you import scenes that contain sources and you put those into scenes. That's about as good as I can do. So on every scene that you want to have a camera, pre-show, gaming, be right back, instead of adding the source for the camera, you would want to add that scene that you created, this nested scene down here. And what I like to do too, as you can see, I'm pretty anal about my organization of stuff in OBS. I create a category called cams, but these are all just nested scenes. And as you can probably see down here as well, I have some special cams that are nested. And, you know, it's just easier if you label them so that you know what is what. Now, the only downside really to this strategy is that normally if you were on this scene and you wanted to right click on the source and edit it, you would go to properties, but you don't get those properties. A little bit of an annoyance, however, it's totally worth it. So if you wanted to add or edit the properties of that particular source, what you would do, I almost moved that, is go down to that nested scene that you created and then right click on the source and hit properties, and you will get all of your camera properties that you want to see. Alrighty, so the other way that I was telling you about regarding ways that we could use nested scenes is being able to add filters to cameras without affecting your main camera and applying that filter globally across all of OBS. So as you can see here, under my cameras, I have my main camera, I have my C920, I have my C922, and then I have my GoPro, which is dead and you can't see it right now. What I'm able to do is, because my sources are nested within these scenes, I can add filters to the scene instead of to the source so that it doesn't apply to it globally. So I have my main camera, and I'm actually just going to delete this right now because it's going to confuse people. Remove. Cool. Okay. I have my main camera scene, which I use everywhere. Let's say that on my gaming scene, I wanted to be able to turn on another camera that had a different color profile to it. So let's go ahead and hide our, you know what? Yeah, let's just hide it all together. Boom. Okay. So I know I just hit a bunch of things at the same time. Don't worry about that. We want to right click on this and duplicate. We're going to call this main camera we'll do main camera super saturation. All right. Okay. And then because I like being organized, I'm going to move this up to my camera category. Boom. So we now have this. It's an identical scene with the same camera source in it. Cool. Let's come back to our gaming. I'm going to add that scene, main camera, super saturation. Cool. And then what I'll do is, just so you guys know that I'm in the gaming scene, I'll make this a little bit smaller. Hello? Come over to this scene, because even though it's listed in the sources, this is a scene because I labeled it nested scenes. Think about it. Right click, filters, and then we are going to crank. Oh, I got to turn color correction on. I was like, no, what did I do? Boom. Super saturation, Batman. All right, cool. So to us, to everybody else, this looks like we applied a video filter to our global camera. However, if I turn that off, and I turn back on my regular nested scene, which is here, no filter. And you can do that as many times as you want. So in the middle of your game, if you wanted to turn off your main camera and turn on a additional scene that had a different color profile, you can do that. The other place where this comes in handy is cropping. So again, let's turn this back off. Come back to here. This is the main camera. I don't ever want to mess with this one. Let's say we wanted to use this camera on a scene and we wanted to crop it. Cool. Come over to here. Let's make another duplication of this scene. Main camera. Pardon my typing. I have 4 keyboards on my desk right here. Cropped dog. Cool. We have that other nested scene. Let's bring it up into our category. Guys, do yourselves a favor. Get organized with this kind of stuff or else you will pull out all of your hair. That is if it doesn't fall out first. I always wonder if streaming was the reason I lost my hair. Trying to figure out dual PC audio, nested scenes, trying to wrap my head around all of that. It all just fell out. Anyways, okay, so we are selected on our main camera. Coolio. Because that source, or excuse me, because that scene isn't here yet, we're going to right click, add scene. We're going to come down to the M's, main camera, crop dog. Shorten this up. And then if you want to crop this, hold Alt and grab these bounding boxes and crop them. There you go. And by the way, too, I think is it Shift? Yeah, Shift lets you stretch shit out. There you go. And as you can see, because this is a nested scene, and because it's separate, you can adjust the crop and filters of this camera here and not mess with the camera over there. So again, if you have a scene where maybe you don't want to use the full rectangle camera, maybe you want to do like a circle cutout of yourself so that you can take up less gaming space, you can do all these things. And with nested scenes, it's possible. All right, my final trick of the day. I love that GIF. My final trick is showing you guys how you can group a bunch of sources together and use those as a single scene. So as you might have already noticed, on my gaming scene, I have a webcam, I have a webcam border, and I also have secondary borders that I use from time to time. I have an event list up there, and I have my Streamlabs alerts, which happen at the bottom of this screen. And what I can do is while I'm playing, if I want to quickly just turn all of that stuff off in case a cutscene comes in or some kind of serious moment, I can click a single key on my macro board and I can turn all of those sources off at the same time. In addition to that, if I am playing a game that my camera seems to be in the way, I can click this one scene and I can move this around as a group. Now, you can do this with scene grouping, which is a feature that OBS released within the past couple months or so. However, scene grouping does not allow you to use a single hotkey to turn that group on and off, which for me is a huge necessity. And that's one of the main reasons why I find it so useful. So we're going to put this back here and I'm going to show you guys how I did that. Over here, again, in my nested scenes, if you come over to gaming and you look at my sources, you see that I have game cam list and alerts as one scene, my cam list and alerts for VR, and another nested scene for when I want to use Bozo. So if you guys haven't seen my show before, you know that Bozo the Clown very often makes an appearance and sometimes he is on camera. So what I can do is when I'm playing a game, let's say I got my camera down here and I will lock the scene. If it's time for Bozo to take over, I can switch to the Bozo cam. So it is two completely separate scenes that have all of those things inside them and I can turn them on and off as I please. And it makes it really helpful for being able to do that on the fly. So I have a scene that has all of those sources baked into it. If you come over to here, gaming, cam, list, and alerts, as you can see, I have the typical, which you can't see right now, the webcam border, and the main camera, and the event list. So if I needed to move around any of these things, you can see that I can click all of these sources individually and edit them. However, if I am on my gaming scene, all of these scenes are one. So if you wanted the ability to group all of those together and be able to set a hotkey to turn them on and off, and I'll just show you, if I come over to my settings and I go to my hotkeys and I go down, don't let this scare you, okay? And I go down to my gaming scene, you can see right here, show gaming, cam, list, and alerts. And I have hotkeys set to be able to turn them on and off. The other cool thing with that is if you have a Stream Deck, you can do the same thing. So right here on my main gaming scene, if I want to turn on all of these on and off, I would choose that source, game, cam, list, and alerts. And if I turn that on and off, as you can see, all of those scenes turn on and off. So I'm not really sure how other people turn all of that stuff off. I don't know if they just switch to a scene that has just full screen gameplay and nothing else. Again, it just comes down to minimalizing the amount of scenes that you have to switch to on a regular day-to-day basis. I know I say that when I have all of these scenes, but those are necessary. Like I said, Echo, turn on streaming in Office. I am so sorry about that. Like I said, I have my 4 main scenes: pre-show, gaming, be right back, and goodbye. And keeping it simple for me really, really, really helps. So hopefully that was enough information to kind of get you started with what you can do. What if I were you and I was looking to test this out, the first thing that I would do is try to create a brand new scene to put your webcam border, and your event list all on one. And that way you can kind of play around with turning that scene on and off, or being able to, click that scene and move it around all as one piece. Now, again, if you just want to use scene grouping to be able to achieve this mechanic, you can do that. However, for me, it is very important that I'm able to turn all of these group scenes on and off with hotkeys. So if that is something that is up your alley, then by all means, get that ass sucked. PG-13. Now, for those of you that are advanced users, I will dive into one more trick that I use. And this is where it can get kind of confusing. But depending on how you learn, you might learn just by watching this video. Other people will watch it and they will need to do it themselves, have all of the things in front of them so that they can experience it, and then they can learn by doing. Excuse me, I'm so burpy. We had pho for lunch today and it's all in my belly. So over on my gaming scene, as you recall, I have this one scene that has all of these sources that are grouped together. Now you might think that this right here is a video camera source. Incorrect. It is actually a nested scene. So remember a little while ago, I was telling you about how you should go out and try this and try to get some practice with it. Cool. So let's say you have your scene created with your camera, your webcam border, and your event list all in one. This right here, my camera scene, is that same nested scene from right here. So just remember that you can kind of get lost in, being able to, when you want to edit properties, because like if I was on this scene and I'm editing all of these sources, if I wanted to right click on my camera and edit it, I couldn't, because it just takes you to a blank property screen. Again, you would have to go to the main camera nested scene and then right click and you could get to your properties. And so that's why on my gaming scene, you might have been expecting to see this nested scene right here, but you see that I have a nested scene within this scene that is a source for my gaming scene. I know, but I'm telling you, once you get it down and you understand how it works, you'll find plenty of ways to be able to use it in your everyday, and it'll probably make your life a little bit easier after you pull all your hair out. Alrighty, well, that is going to be it for this tutorial. I hope you guys were able to grasp some of the concepts that I was spewing. And yes, indeed, it was spewing. If you don't be afraid to watch it a couple times to really try to understand what's going on. But yeah, those are just some of the 3 main ways that I use nested scenes to kind of put my show together. There's a lot of different times where I want a different crop factor. Let's say I even have, let's see, this triggered cam. You know, I want to be able to add this color filter and this stretched resolution to this camera only and not to my main camera. And that makes all the difference to me. Being able to customize how a camera looks depending on the feel you want to push for that scene, it really comes in handy. So if you guys have any questions, while YouTube comments are local and they're great, it's not really the best place to get help, at least when it comes to me. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up on Twitter. We have a Discord help channel where people come in and ask help regarding technical issues and streaming. So feel free to join the Discord. Feel free to DM me on Twitter. My DMs are open, and I'll leave links to all that stuff in the description below. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm super excited to be able to do more of these videos. Again, it's all about how much free time I have, but I really want to get in the habit of recording tutorials like this so I can share my secrets and hopefully inspire you guys to create awesome content and really get down into the nitty gritty of what OBS can do for you as a broadcaster. So thank you again so much for checking this video out, and I hope you have a good one.
What the hell? You went the entire video without even letting me speak. Are you kidding me? Jesus Christ. Anyways, Naaackers streams on Twitch. If you ever decide you want to catch him live, twitch.tv/Naaackers with 3 A's. If you're looking to ask some questions or just get involved, you can hit him up on Twitter or you can get in on the Discord. Links to both of those will be in the description below. And of course, if you're looking for that bozo Snapchat, you gotta be subscribed on Patreon and Twitch, and links to all of those special places will be down below. Okay, bye!